Hi there, welcome to video number 14, looking at the Black Square King Air. This one is going to be an actual test flight using all of the hardware. It's not going to be a tutorial on how to fly this aircraft. It really is just a matter of getting into the air, and I want to test my programming, make sure they work. So we're going to fly in developer mode. We haven't got any interaction with other aircraft. We've got them all switched off, so we've got all the airspace to ourselves. We're not going to use any air traffic control either, so no restrictions. Just going to get up in the air and do some testing. So this is the plan. If I bring in my map, we're in the southeast corner of England, and I'm going to take off from Southend on this runway here, and we'll turn back using various different modes of controlling the autopilot, and we're going to do some flights around this area here. When we finish with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly over and try and find this airfield here, Rainhall Farm. And I'm going to fly using not the GPS, but we're going to fly using the VOR. And if I measure from here, if I measure the distance from Rainhall Farm, I'm going to use this VOR as my main one. Could have that into VOR 1, and you can see that that's on the 289 radial approximately, and we're about 18 nautical miles away from there. So what I'm going to do is do my flight testing around here, pick up that radial, overfly it, and we should cross over Rainhall Farm. And I'm going to use this as a cross-reference, Brookman's Park, which is on the 250 radial. The distance doesn't really matter particularly, but as we cross over that, we should see both our instruments centre, and we should then be able to see Rainhall, which I haven't seen before, but it's a known airfield around where I used to live. So once we get over there, I'm going to take a right hand turn, and we'll fly on up towards Abbott. When we get in this direction here, we'll fly on the heading bug. Abbott is the beginning of a procedure that takes us along this route here and eventually ends up using the ILS into Luton on the runway 25. So that's what we're going to do, using various different modes, and check my programming and check how the aircraft actually works. So where are we now? If I get into my cockpit, let's move this out of the way. We are waiting to join the runway here, and we've got a little bit of setup still to do. We've done all the run-up checks, we've got everything working, and what we need to do first of all is to look at the passenger comfort side of things. So the outside air temperature here is 14 degrees Celsius, so not a particularly warm day, but we have switched on this to auto. We've adjusted the temperature here, we've got the blowers working, and we should find we've got an inside temperature 20 degrees, so it's fairly comfortable inside here. The second thing we need to look at is the pressurization of the system. At the moment, it's set that the air pressure will follow the outside air pressure up to about 8,000 feet. You know, that's quite high for someone who's not had that experience before, and it will pressurize quite quickly to that temperature, that pressure. So what I want to do is to reduce what it feels like in the cabin. What I'm going to do at the moment is I'm going to bring in up onto the top left hand side, I'm going to bring in my Stream Deck in a virtual window so that can't disappear. So you can keep an eye on what I'm seeing on my Stream Deck. And at the moment, if I go to the pedestal, you can see the cabin altitude is 52 feet, which is about the right altitude for this airport. And there's my altitude goal. But what I'm going to do is turn the control on my X touch, and we'll bring that down to a target value of about 2,500 feet, something like that. That should be comfortable for passengers. They really shouldn't notice too much different, and it will climb at the rate of 500 feet per minute. We'll be climbing faster than that in the cockpit, but as far as they're concerned, that's the difference that they will feel. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to program in my flight plan into the GPS here. We're not actually going to use it to start with, but we'll need it later on. So if we go in here and actually put the flight plan in. So on my X touch, I'm pressing the flight plan button, bringing up the cursor, and I want to fly from Southend, which is Echo Golf Mike Charlie. So I'm using the rotary control, Echo Golf Mike, and I have to keep switching between the inner and outer control. So I'm pressing the toggle switch to make that happen. Mike Charlie, and we'll enter that. And now destination is Luton, which is Echo Golf Golf Whiskey. And into that. We finish with that, so we can turn the cursor off so we can't do any more entries, and come out of the flight plan by pressing the same button again, the FPL button, and you can see the magenta line there. While we're here, we can change the mode of the nav so we can see airspaces and everything. So that's set, but we're not going to be using the GPS side of things. We want to use the VORs. So I need to tune in VOR 1 and 2, nav 1, nav 2. At the moment, if I press the tuning knobs, which are here, I'll be tuning the comms. So I'm going to need to swap that over. So we're now going to be doing the nav side of things. And for Barkway, I need 116.25. And we'll make that active. We'll swap that over so that becomes the active, and you should see that this has now activated. This hasn't, because we are still in GPS mode. So I'm going to press the equivalent of the CDI button on my X touch. So that's now in VLOC mode, and that's gone live. And I need to program in my course. So I'm going to change the selector on the Honeycomb yoke, and I want to move that to 289. And I can see the exact radial is chosen, is there. Now it's for nav 2. Nav 2 is Bookman's Park. That's 117. So I've had to toggle the control there. Now if I hold the long press on that end of that rotary, you can see that's transferred that, and that's controlling this, and we need to set the course on that. So using my VOR2 rotation, I want that on to 250. Now there isn't an actual readout numerical anywhere, you're just judging it from that, from the card behind there. And you can see here that the DME has kicked in. It knows we're 34.6 miles away from Barkway, and that'll become more relevant later on. Right, we are going to set our target altitude. So again, I'm changing the selector on the Honeycomb yoke so that the control knob controls the altitude, and I'm going to set an initial target of 5,000 feet. So I think we're good to go now. We're going to enter the runway, so we'll have the strobe on and taxi and landing lights on for maximum visibility. And what I will do now is I will turn on the sound so you can actually hear the cockpit sounds as we fly. So next thing is to put the condition leader to high idle, and I'm going to put in the first knot of flaps as well. Release the parking brake, and away we go. Could probably turn off the master caution now to stop that distraction. I'm just testing the steering. Just line up here. Hold it on the toe brakes for the moment. I want to synchronize the heading bug. So the heading bug is here. The heading bug is in the direction we're facing. So I've got a reference point to help me return towards the airport. So we'll just sync that up, and I think we're good to go. So okay, we've got a positive climb, so we'll have gear up and flaps up, and I'm going to trim using my electric trim for about 2,000 feet per minute climb, which is about there, and I'm going to press the autopilot, and that should capture that and fly with wings level as we're following the flight director. The instrument panel's a bit dark, so we'll turn on the master switch, and I'm keeping a bit of an eye on the pressure, and that's moving up steadily, and just checking the annunciator. The only one that's switched on at the moment is the landing light, so we can turn the landing light, taxi light off. Master caution off. And I'm going to increase our rate of climb. I'm going to do that with the vertical speed indicator. So I'm going to put it into vertical speed mode and just select all this all happening on the Honeycomb yoke. We'll go for 3,000 feet per minute. And that's warning us for 1,000 feet from our intended altitude now. That should capture, and everything should settle down now. So airspeed should increase. We'll make sure the prop sync is on. And we can bring this back to low idle, reduce the prop speed a bit. That makes it a quieter ride. Take a little bit of power off, and we're into a nice cruise now. Okay, I want to turn the aircraft round to return and fly over the airport, and I'm going to do that using the control on the pedestal, which effectively we turn that to the right. It'll move the flight director, and we're following flight director at the moment, so we should see a bank angle. I've got that programmed in on my pedestal settings on the Stream Deck, and so if I press the roll right button, we should see this knob turn, and we should see that we get a bank started. And it can go, if I hold the button down, it auto repeats. It goes to a maximum of 30 degrees and stops. So that's hit the stop now. I've got a maximum of 30-degree bank, and you can see that the turn has started. So I'm going to stop the roll when we get back to the reverse of our takeoff route that we took. And on my Stream Deck I've got two buttons programmed, one for roll central and one for quick center. The roll central will move that button, this knob, at the same speed that it did before, and if I hold it down it will click 1 degree each time and bring itself to center, and it won't go any further past that center. It's programmed to stop when it's at 0. So if I bring that now, if I start that roll back, you'll see that was a fairly nice gentle roll back to the centre. I'm going to check the roll left now. And that's working fine. I'm going to do a quick roll to the centre. So what that does effectively, it writes a 0 into the bank angle. So it returns the knob quite quickly. The plane doesn't snap back, it rolls quite gently back. Now we'll roll right to get back onto the heading that we want. And this time I use the quick center, so as we get close to where the heading bug should be, it fairly quickly brings the wings level. So that's working absolutely spot on. Right, next thing to do is I want to do a climb, and I want to climb to 10,000 feet. So we'll change the selector on the Honeycomb yoke and move that up to 10,000 feet. And what we're going to do is press the climb button here, but again I'm using it on my X touch. So press the climb button and you'll see immediately it pitches up, and we're beginning to climb. What will happen is it will select an indicated airspeed here, and hold that airspeed. So the rate of climb kind of depends on the amount of power you've given it. So it will hold 160 knots here because we started the climb below 10,000 feet, and it will do the best rate of climb it can at 160 knots depending on the power. If you give it more power, it will climb faster. So you can see this begins to settle now. And I'm going to put 80% torque in, and this should sit around about the 2,000 feet per minute mark. While I'm doing this, I'm also keeping an eye on this indicator here, so I know when I cross the radial. So we're on our way to 10,000 feet. Our pressure goal is 2,500 feet in the cabin. You can see that on my stream deck. And it's holding that, even though we're up to 10,000 feet. In the cabin, it feels like 2,500 feet. And again, this is now beginning, it's capturing, and it's going to level off at 10,000 feet, and the airspeed should go up again. And the cabin pressure is still good. What we'll do is we'll have a quick check at the inside temperature is 21, outside temperature -4. So we really ought to have some anti-ice on. Let's go for prop heat. So we've now got heated propellers, and we'll turn on the anti-ice around the vents, the stall warning vent, and the pitot tubes. So I haven't got any danger of icing. Airspeed is going up. And the pressure is still holding. So let's go for another 5,000 feet. So let's go to 1,500 feet. Press the climb button. And this time, because we started above 10,000 feet, or at 10,000 feet, it should choose 140 as its airspeed to hold. These are the actual dials to look at if you're not going to program into your stream deck. So this one here shows that there's no change of cabin pressure, and I can see that all echoed on the stream deck as well. And this one here is indicating to you the sort of inside and outside pressures and the differentials that are there. And you also get a clue from here that at the 2,500 feet we should be able to climb to 19,000 feet before there's any leak, which seems to be holding quite well. We're getting closer to the radial. I think this is beginning to move slightly here now. What I'm going to just do now is just check out that the heading bug following is working. So I'm going to bring the heading bug and we'll sync that up. We'll put it into heading mode so we can see a heading here, and again, choose the right selector on the Honeycomb yoke, and we'll begin to turn what I'm going to do eventually is we will cross the radial, and then we'll do a turn around, loop around, and come and pick up that radial. So I'm just testing out that it's following the heading bug correctly, and it is. Okay, so we've reached 15,000 feet and there's no issues with the pressurization. What I want to do now is to try the opposite, and we're going to use the descend button, which is here. Now to descend, before we descend, we really ought to reduce the power. You don't want to start adjusting the trim, pointing it nose down while you're actually under power. So we'll come back on the power, watch the airspeed decay a bit, and then we'll press the descend button. And it's not responding to that at the moment. Let's try again. It's nodding, but it's not going down. Let's it's not going down because I haven't set a target. Let's bring it down to 5,000 feet. And we'll hit the descend button now. That's more like it. Give it a target first so it knows where it's going, and then it tell it what to do. The rate of descent, again, depends on the power setting that you've got. It's going to choose an airspeed for itself, again, depending on the altitude you're at. And you can choose the rate of descent by putting in more power. You'll decrease the rate of descent. And we've passed the radial, so what I'm going to do now is instigate a right hand turn. So we'll roll to the right as well as descending. So we come around to pick up that radial again. And I'm going to stop the roll any second now, so we need to fly to the left to pick up the radial, so I'll center it up now. And we're almost at our 5,000 feet. And we need to be mindful that when it levels off, we're going to lose a lot of airspeed because they did reduce the power, so we're going to need to bring that back in as we level off. And I'm going to put it into nav mode this time so that it should now center up itself up onto that radial and bring the power back in. And we'll make sure that he's actually picking up the radial. And here it is turning onto the heading now. So we're going to hopefully follow this radial in and overfly Rainstall Farm. And we've got about 16 nautical miles to go to reach that, because that's the distance to the actual VOR. And I want to be low enough that I can see our target. So let's bring this down to 2,000 feet. I'm going to bring this down using the vertical speed this time. So reduce the power. Into vertical speed mode. And we'll dial in a decent descent. So 12, 13 miles away from it. We should start to see this unpin soon, and then this should cross. And when the two cross, we should be able to see down and to see our target. While we're here, there's some strange aberrations in the mesh here. We often can see this trench running for miles, and also I've got some third-party software causing a problem here. That's Stansted Airport, and when we get closer we can see the details, but from further away we're just going to get white squares like it's a snow effect. And I've taken all the third-party software out to see if I can cure that, and it's not really working yet. Okay, how are we doing? Getting closer. So this here is Basildon, I think. Braintree, my apologies, Braintree. And our airfield is just the other side of Braintree that we were looking for. And you can see this beginning to unpin here. There's a little bit of movement. And here's that trench I was talking about. I think I can see a beacon light just about here. You can see the squares beginning to sort themselves out here now as we get closer. So it's some sort of level of detail problem that I've got. We're nearly crossing. I might take a quick look outside as well. is this grass strip here. Looks like we're coming straight up on it. Oh, that looks more like it. Not far off, not far off. Certainly close enough for us to find it. Now, there's the beacon. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to put it into heading mode. So we're going to follow the heading and we're going to fly off towards Abbott to pick up the procedure. So we just let this settle, stabilize, and then we're going to go into the GPS unit here and we're going to press the procedure button, select an approach, and I want the ILS for runway 25. Press enter on there, and I want the Abbott transition, and I'm going to activate that straight away. So it's put into the flight plan all the different steps for the approach procedure, but it's not actually going to fly there yet, and I'll show you why. Firstly is we need to put it into GPS mode, so press the CDI button and you can see that that's now responded, and we press the nav button and it should go into nav mode, and it should now fly us into Abbott, and that's where it says it's heading. When it gets there it should make the turn and begin to follow that procedure and go from waypoint to waypoint. Now it's going to turn a bit short of Abbott. It's going to use its own intelligence and fly us around here to pick that up as efficiently as possible. And you should see the magenta line become active. While it's doing that, I'm going to, it's to happen now, I'm going to set this up so it is pointing this one here, sorry. So it is pointing in the direction of the runway that we've selected, so I've got a visual representation that it's going to be runway 25 that we're going to be landing at. Now if we go back and look at the flight plan, you can see that we've got at least 30 nautical miles to run. So what I'm going to do is I will pause the recording and it'll just follow along here, and I'll bring you back in when interesting things are happening. Okay, so bringing you back in now, we're getting closer. You can see runway 25 is appearing. Let's just have, yes, it's turning and following the fixes. So this one here should be bringing us in to face the runway. So let's come out of here. What it's done here is it automatically put in the frequency for the ILS, so we need to make that active now. So we'll swap that into active, and you can see that it's been picked up here. That's straight ahead of us. So I'm going to change the mode by pressing the CDI now. And we've got 12 miles to go. And I'm going to engage approach mode, because it should pick up the glide slope for us. So I'm going to start preparing for landing now. So we'll bring the airspeed back. And we have landing lights and taxi lights on. Well, we don't need taxi lights, just landing lights on, to be honest. And I can see the runway ahead. Just letting the speed decay here. And I'm going to put in a first notch of flaps. And we've got to watch the airspeed, make sure we don't come into a stall. And we're going to drop the gear down. And again, keeping an eye on our airspeed. And just watching now for the glide slope indicator to unpin, to start to move down, to make sure we capture the glide slope. Started to move now. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put the condition lever here into a high idle, just in case we need to do a go around and we want to get the power, full power to get out. And we start reducing the throttles again as we're now beginning to descend down the glide slope. And engage the full flaps. As I said, I'm not a real world pilot, so these are probably not the, or possibly not the right procedures, but it seems to be working for me when I've been flying this aircraft. But then again, I have crashed it about 4 times at this airport recently. And the reason I've crashed it is I haven't quite got the sensitivities of the throttle sorted, and if you should come back just a bit too far, it puts it into reverser. But it only does it on the left-hand engine, not the right, because I haven't quite got them balanced. And I can see here on my radio, I'll the altimeter here, we're about 500 feet, so that's probably a good time to take out the autopilot, and we'll hand fly that down now. We took that a bit too fast. There we are. Anyway, perhaps I shouldn't have used the high-speed reverse one. I should have used one further up the runway. Well, I hope that helps. Tested pretty much everything that's on there. Just need to really sort of get into the shutdown part of things now. So. I hope that series of videos has been useful to you. I might do another set if I get around to buying another aircraft, but at the moment I'm really enjoying getting into this one. Thanks very much for watching. Have fun.